Good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. This morning we're going to have a nice personality, really a very nice personality, with a perspective, careful Bill, your teeth will fall out, perspective on taking care of the small animals. But first, kudo. I think I really have a great kudo this morning. We have a high school coach, Neil Alexander, been very successful. And I think he's one of two now, have the most wins, career wins, two coaches in the state. That's very significant. But over and above coaching and wins and losses, you know, during war they talked about collateral damage. Well, we have some collateral influence that Coach Alexander has influenced a bunch of children. You know, it's just inevitable that some people are going to have children that ought not to have children. That's just the way it is. And some of those youngsters are falling through the cracks. Coach Alexander and his coaches, and incidentally Denise Alexander, Coach's wife, exert a great positive influence on the kids he coaches on the hardwood court. And I think, in my judgment, is the effect that he has on kids who need a little help learning how to be a young citizen is probably more important than the wins and losses that he's brought Lincoln. So kudos to Coach Neil Alexander on achieving quite a mark in his coaching career. A salute. Now, Mrs. Busby, I relinquish the mic to you, and I promise to shut up for the next 30 minutes so you can have some time.
If you do, I'll walk out the door.
Well, I'm not going to hog the mic like I did last week. So go right ahead and bring our guest aboard.
Well, we have a very fine guest, as
Yes,
Bill said. Marilyn Wheat is a longtime resident of Lincoln, America, and also a longtime employee or volunteer or all of the above at the Humane Society out on the edge of town. Marilyn, if the ads that are put on television by the ASPCA and Humane Society bother me as much as they do, I can't imagine. They must turn you inside out when you see some poor dog out in the snow with a log chain around his neck. What's the matter with people?
Well, good morning, Judy. I don't know. I do. It just turns my stomach also when I see things like that on TV. But I don't know. You know, you don't have the answer. It goes on all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a sad situation.
And you, being who you are, just such a caring, giving person, I wish we could clone you and send you down to the border. There are an awful lot of kids down there that could use...
You wouldn't wish that on her.
that could use some TLC, I'm sure. So how long have you been affiliated with the Humane Society?
Well, Judy, I was going to talk about this a little bit too. 2006, we started operating the Humane Society, just from out of homes and cars and things like that. So this year, it is 15 years since the Humane Society started here in Lincoln, Illinois, and Logan County.
And importantly, run with volunteers. You have how many are the paid staff up there, Marilyn?
We have one girl that works 12 hours a week. And we just hired her a couple months ago just to help us out. The truth is there's a lot of paperwork to do also.
Oh, I bet.
Also this year is our 10th anniversary for our building. So we have two anniversaries to celebrate this summer. We're going to start through April and September.
Well, so, very good.
I think that's marvelous.
How many people do you have on your volunteer staff?
Oh, at least 35.
Is that right? That is so great.
Yes, it is. Our dogs, of course, take 3 shifts a day, 8, 12, and 5. And then the cats take 2, 8 and 5 o'clock. So, but there's so much more than doing all that, too. I don't know. This past year's been rough for everyone, of course.
Yes.
With the COVID starting, what is it, a year ago this month?
Yep.
Yeah.
COVID.
Uh-huh.
So in April of last year, we decided we had to cut back a little bit because of the COVID. So we were only open 3 days a week for about a month or 5 weeks. And then we went to appointment only, and still are doing appointment only.
Mm-hmm.
But
How do cats do on appointments?
Oh, they do well. They do well. And a matter of fact, through last year, from COVID to the end of the year, we adopted out 75 animals.
Oh, my. Good for you.
Marilyn, what is the procedure for somebody who's looking for a stray and doesn't want to go get a thoroughbred? Of course, you have some thoroughbred strays out there, of course.
Yes, we
but
do.
what is the procedure for somebody to adopt one of your wards out there?
Well, right now with COVID, of course, you can call and get on and get an appointment, and we will be. Lynette Mosky is ahead of our adoption, and she or I will meet you out there, and then we just they look around and fall in love with an animal. And then, of course, it's the paperwork, and we check them out. We are very, very picky about our adoptees.
Good.
We check the vets on them if they had prior animals. We just really do a good background check. And then they, pay, but every animal that leaves our facility has all of its shots, of course, spayed or neutered, and microchipped. And all that costs money, as you know how veterinarian costs are.
I can't imagine what the microchip process must cost.
Yes. Well, that's hard. Yeah. It's, but it's best for the owners and the animals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So.
What does it cost then? If I found a pup that I really liked, what would the cost be to an adoptive person?
That's another thing. This past, I don't know, maybe 6-7 weeks, we have raised our prices the first time since we have opened. So the price pay for a doggy is around $200, but that barely covers. If it covers the cost of the animals keep since the day we got them.
Oh, I'm sure that.
That won't cover your costs, really. I don't see how it can cover your costs unless you only have an animal for a week. You've had an animal in there for a month or 6 weeks or more. You have some significant money invested.
Oh yes. I mean everything. Everything. If the time, the lights, the water. I mean everything. But if you add everything like that together, besides the vet care, But we're a nonprofit, so we're not supposed to make. And we've had, if it wasn't for Logan County, we have wonderful people that give us donations. Although, like this past year, we wasn't able to have any fundraisers, which we usually have every month or so. We did have a small cookie sale in December, and that went extremely well. But other than that, we wasn't able to. We keep the doors locked. We have everyone. They have to wear masks when they come in.
Of course.
And of course, and because if you don't, people just walk in, and you can't have that with COVID.
No. That's changed everybody's life, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. One thing that did go up this past year, we also have an assistant program where we, of course, a lot of people weren't working with COVID and out of jobs, but if they do need a vet assistance, we do offer some vet assistance to them. Of course, they have to fill out all the paperwork, and we talk to the veterinarian, and we try to help them on that if they can't afford their veterinarian, all of their veterinarian care.
Well, veterinary costs can get to be a burden,
I know it is expensive.
Mrs. Sweet, how do you work with the veterinarians? You just kind of a round robin situation. Dr. Gillen will take this month, and Dr. Rage will take another month. How do you work that out?
We do try to spread that out. Dr. Gillen has retired.
Yes, I understood that.
Although, but we have another Dr. Miller, I think her name is. But we try to make it equal all over. We do have on Fridays, which was another thing that we started this past year, mainly because of COVID. On Fridays, the vets come to see us.
Oh.
And so for minor, get all their shots and minor things like that, check up after surgeries, and so that has really helped that we didn't have to haul the animal out to wherever, and it's less stress on the animal. That they don't have to be put in a car, they don't have to be put in a cage and driven, and so that's really been a big help.
I bet.
Also.
What will be the average occupancy? How many do you have on the average per day out there?
Well, that's another thing. Of course, again, with COVID, it has been a little lower this year. But we generally try to have 4 or 5 dogs. And the cats we always have are pretty full, mainly. And especially here later, we'll be having kitten season.
Yeah, they've been out catting around.
Yes. Yes.
That's a bad
we do have another, program, and again, like with COVID again, I hate to keep saying that, but our food bank was really up this year also, this past year. Because,
how does that work, Marilyn?
Well, we get a lot of donations of all kinds of foods, and we strictly give our animals Purina. I mean, it's not, you don't just keep changing their food. It's not good for their stomach or anything else.
Right.
And so we have a lot of donations that help with our food bank also, and so people come, and we have to keep track of. Say a person comes, we take their name, see how many animals they have. We keep track of how much food comes in and how much food goes out because of the nonprofit. But we had a lot of people with this last year needing help for their animals, for the food. So,
Marilyn, is there? I'm going to ask a question as soon as we get the answer to that. Perhaps Mr. Ash will want to slip into some commercials. We have to underwrite the cost of this. Mrs. Busby gets all this money. I don't get paid near as much as she does.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying.
So my question to you is, before we go to the commercials, is there a particular breed of dog that seems to be more popular than others, like a Labrador over a Cocker Spaniel or whatever?
No, not really. I mean,
according to the dog's personality that appeals to somebody, yeah. I presume.
How about small dogs as opposed to the bigger breeds?
Oh, small dogs always go quicker.
Yeah.
I mean, they aren't, they go quicker. A lot of people like smaller dogs.
Yeah.
Myself, I love them all, but I prefer larger dogs.
Do you? Uh-huh. Well, that's, some people like Coke, some people like Dr. Pepper, everybody has
some people don't like it at all. Go ahead, Mr. Ash, when you're ready to flip the lever, sir. Here, high on the hill, County Road 2250, known as Lazy Roll. Station, of course, is WLCN, and if you didn't know it, you're tuned into 96.3 on your FM dial. Our guest this morning, Marilyn Wheat. Wheaties is what we call her. I'm going to refrain from my next comment we have. Marilyn is one of the many volunteers, or she's one of the several volunteers, or maybe a lot of that diligently works for the benefit of our pets in the community that have gone astray and don't have a home. The folks, the volunteers out there at our Humane Society do a whale of a job. And it should be a great comfort to those of us who are animal lovers to know that the cats and the dogs that are in their care are well taken care of. You may have some questions. 648-5510. Marilyn Wheat's our guest today, and yes, Mrs. Busby's buzzing me. Stand by.
I was just going to say, I don't want to interrupt you, but
you just did.
I know. Shame on me. I'd like to tell Marilyn a personal pet care story about myself.
Well, your own 51% of the show. Do what you want.
Where I used to work, there was a young lady who had gotten a dog. I think she bought the dog, and she wanted to know if I'd give it a home, and I said I just really wasn't up for a dog. I was sorry. Well, then a while later she asked me if I would keep the dog for the weekend. Jim, you'll fondly remember Murphy. He was the white dog that barked and barked and barked. Okay. Now, anyway, he came to stay with me then for the weekend so she could go visit her parents. And 13 years later, poor Murphy went to doggy heaven. So that was the longest weekend of my life.
Yes, it was.
You know, that's one thing we have to do with animals. We can choose when the time comes, and that we'll all know that time, that it's necessary to invoke euthanasia. We're doing our pets a huge favor when we do that. It's unfortunate that the mores of the time and society won't let us do that to we humans, because there comes a time in our life when things just have gone to pot and there's no way to, but obviously we're not going to do that. But it's a good thing that we can do that with our dogs. Mm-hmm. I know Murphy fell off of your porch one day right in front of me, and I knew then the time had come.
He was a little excitable, and as we get older, we aren't as good on our feet as we used to be, don't you know?
No, I wouldn't know anything about that. Seriously, Marilyn has come along here this morning with us as a volunteer. What is your most pressing problem for volunteers, Mrs. Wheat?
Well, finding volunteers is something else also. I like to say, would you like to help out for a couple hours a week? But every so often we do get short of volunteers, and we were so lucky though this year we were so strict with our COVID rules. We only had a couple people that really had to stay off a couple weeks because of the COVID. So we were really lucky on that part. Another thing I wanted to tell you both, Bill, you were talking earlier about Coach Alexander and students. Mm-hmm. Well, we have students that come and volunteer.
That's a good thing. Teaches them things.
Yes, and some are from Lincoln College, and right now we have 2 students from Lincoln College that are studying to be veterinarians.
Oh, well, isn't that neat? Yeah.
Yes, and they love coming there. And then another student from Lincoln College that wants to do a horse veterinarian.
Wow.
So, and we get some high school kids too, but they have to have their parents' signature, of course, and all that down. They have to be over 16. But so that's really, and they're really helpful also, and it's just so good for the kids. I mean, we've got a couple of them that they just love being there. So it's a good thing for kids also.
Thank God for volunteers. My goodness. If it weren't for the people who volunteer their time, there'd be an awful lot of organizations that'd be in a world of hurt.
Oh, there would be.
I always thought a veterinarian was pretty special in the medical field because the patient can't tell them how they feel. You know, they have to have they have to have an intuitive bent to work with it. And we've got some good Dr. Laura Bargeson and Dr. Jason Rage and of course
Dr. Bill. We have all kinds of. We have really good vets.
Dr. Bill Armstrong. Yes, right. Yeah.
I think so, and they've helped us out a lot. We had this past year we had a dog that came in that really needed a lot of care and had 2 surgeries. But they let them stay there at the veterinarian place, free of charge.
Now, was that dog abused or was that dog just poorly?
That was a beautiful Siberian Husky.
Oh, they are pretty.
Yes, who came in and was immediately. When I looked at the dog, I just knew that dog had to get away from that person. Well, they were going to give it up anyway. That's what they came for, relinquish the dog. But long story short, as soon as I looked at it, I just knew, and we got the dog, and happily that dog is in Springfield, Illinois right now with a beautiful family. And they just love him.
When a dog is in that kind of shape, what are the chances of its learning to trust people and be a good pet? Mm-hmm.
That's up to the human.
It takes the people. They always say, when you adopt an animal, especially a dog, it takes at least 3 months for the dog to really trust you. And I know I've had myself adopt dogs all my life, and it does. It takes a long time. So, I'm just glad that, and most of the people that a lot of times, not all, but a lot of times when they do give up an animal, they don't really tell you the truth. So then you have to start digging back again and see if you can find out more.
So 648-5510. If anybody had, our Humane Society right out there along the highway. It's kind of a quiet place. Nobody pays too much attention to it. I'll say this: they keep it up. They keep it groomed nicely. It always looks very nich. Oh, and by the way, you have a pet cemetery there, which is important to mention.
And people.
I'm going there with my little dog Trey. I'm not sure I'm ready for that yet. I've thought it over, and I'm not going yet. I don't think.
No.
But seriously, when a volunteer walks in the door, what will be the first thing that a volunteer will have to do?
Well, I will. That's my part of one of the parts. Also,
I'm not walking in there then.
But I sit down and they fill out their application prior to coming, and I set up an appointment, and I meet with them, and we talk quite a while, and then I'll take them a tour of the whole facility, and we'll set up times where they can come, and they'll work with other volunteers and be trained. So, they have to be trained.
Is it kind of a noisy atmosphere, Mrs. Wheat? Dogs barking a lot?
Sometimes it's real noisy there.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that the volunteer has to be trained. So what is it that you train them to do?
Well, feeding times. We do some, every animal we get has to go in isolation. We have an isolation room out there, so they would have to be trained on how to put slippers on your feet and take, everything has to be sterilized and clean. They go out one certain door. They don't use the other dog doors. Keep all the isolation rules, and then just the ordinary rules of taking the animals in and out with collars, making sure everything's locked. Just mopping, using disinfects, although we bleach a lot and some disinfect, but how much to use in a gallon, and their food, like I say, and just a lot, actually. And the same with the cats. I mean, changing the litters, and we wash. We do lots and lots of laundry. We keep.
Oh, I'm sure of that.
Well, do you keep some kind of blanket or rug or what have you?
Oh, yes.
In each cage?
Yeah, so they'll have their little blankie.
Are you folks under the jurisdiction of the State Department of Agriculture? Or,
yes, we have. They come in every so often and inspect us, unannounced, as always.
What kinds of things are they looking for, Marilyn?
Well, they just look for
friendliness.
They go look at every, like last time they look at every room, every cat room. Look in there your medicine. If you got your medicine in your small refrigerator, if it's cool, it's supposed to be cool. Just check all that, just like the state people do. Look at all the cages and make sure that the animal can't get hurt. They walk around outside. They look in the isolation rooms. They make sure that the outside area is clean, which, you have to pick up after the animal.
I think it's important to note that you do have outside runways for your animals, so they can get out on a daily basis when the weather's correct.
In the runs, and we have what was it? 2 years ago, we built a canopy, big wooden, nice canopy for when it's raining, and they can still get out there with the volunteer. They can't be out there alone. So that's what they look for, and then they check your records. Like last time, he pulled out like 3 or 4 adoption papers. They wanted to make sure they were filled out accurate. You know how the inspections go.
Yeah, it's a bureaucracy. You got a bureaucrat, which reminds me.
See how many animals that went out or adopted out that year, or whatever. They ask a lot of questions.
Do people ever call you because there's a stray in their neighborhood that doesn't seem to have anybody caring for it?
But they do, and that's another thing, the Department of Ag, we cannot just take in a stray, per se, like someone finds a dog on the highway or street. We send them over to animal control, and then eventually they see if they're microchipped, and eventually if they're, we'll get them. But the Department of Ag does not allow us to take and just pick up a stray, take off. So,
why is that?
I don't know. That's their rule. You wouldn't want to bring in an animal that we would know, first of all, if it was ill.
But I could bring a dog into you that had some dread social disease.
That's true too. So,
and people aren't always honest. I hate to tell you that, but
surely you jest.
No, I know that.
I think you have a right to know.
Mrs. Wheat, does the city have what we used to call a dog pound?
Well, that's animal control.
Animal control, and we do have the city has a facility that they're responsible for.
Yeah, the county runs that.
I see.
And we work with them a lot. They're very, very nice people over there. We do work with them a lot. Now, of course, we're in the city. Our facility and cemetery is in the city. but no one manages us except all of us and our board and the Department of Agriculture. So, and to keep our 501c nonprofit, we have to go by also the rules. So, but it's challenging at times.
Do you have any paid staff there, Marilyn, or is it all volunteer?
It's all volunteer except, we hired a girl. She works 12 hours a week.
Boy, that's nothing.
We hired her a couple months ago, and she mainly, and she's an animal control coordinator. She has been taking care of a lot of when we get animals in, all that has to, like I said, has to be written down, the intake and everything about the animal. So we needed some help. So that 12 hours a week doesn't sound like much, but it helps a lot, really.
So she does mostly like record keeping and so forth then?
Right.
648-5510. One of our two listeners out there ought to have a question for Mrs. Wheat. Marilyn, tell us a little bit about your pet cemetery. And you mentioned that I could be buried alongside Dog Mo if I want to be.
You can. It's a forever home cemetery, and of course, my husband Dan does all the taking care of the grounds out there, and that is a big job.
He does a whale of a job. It always looks nice.
Shelter, the shelter and the cemetery. But yes, we sell lots. I just sold one the other day, and then the people want one also. We, I don't know, our lots are like 3x5s, and they're all marked with pins, just like any other cemetery. They're $250, and you can put 4 in one plot. So that's pretty good. And Don Peasley's on our committee for the cemetery. Don's a good guy.
Yes, he is.
As he and I were talking last week, cremation has went so, it's so many people are being cremated now. So, actually, that, has helped our cemetery also.
A quick story. I'm going to kind of clean it up a little bit. I have a friend who had a marriage that went south on her, and that's a long time ago now. And she had old George sitting on the shelf, and her current husband said, it'd be nice if you take him. He liked to hunt and so forth, and it'd be nice if you'd take him out and scatter him where he really enjoyed being. It'd be a nice thing to do. And she agreed. So she went out there, and she couldn't get the urn open. She said, you so-and-so, you gave me trouble then, now you give me trouble. To hear her tell the story was a very funny story. So be careful. Ask your funeral director what kind of an urn they're going to use instead of a coffee can.
They are hard to open, but did she get hers open? That's what I want to know.
Well, I found a perfect urn for me. I went to see a visitation from a young friend, Marvin Boss, and he was in the Air Force and had a very nice career. And they had a real nice urn, with a wooden urn with the Air Force insignia on it. And I said, that's for me. So I told the funeral director to be sure and have one set aside waiting for her.
Waiting for you. Oofta.
Marilyn, what would be the biggest problem that you face when you do open the door on a Monday morning?
We're closed on Monday morning, so there is no
That's a good way to avoid problems.
As Amos Nandy says, I rephrase my question.
Yes,
try Tuesday morning.
On Tuesday morning, how about that? We're closed on Sunday
fair
and
enough.
Monday.
So what would be the biggest problem that a volunteer would face when they walk in there the first day on the job?
Oh, I just hoping that they do everything right. Hoping that there's not 5 loads of laundry to do. Hoping they can find all the food right. And hoping that there's not a big mess with whatever in the rooms with the animals. And, it's just a lot of cleaning to do.
Well, do You have shifts going, I'm sure, 7 days a week, don't you?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, 7 days a week.
Yeah, you can't not water the dog just because it's Saturday.
No, and feed them.
It's inevitable you're going to come across a difficult dog from time to time. How do you handle a dog that's really got a nasty temper and can't help it? Maybe that temper was caused by humans. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true. Well, you just got to, that's another thing, like with training.
It takes a lot of patience.
Take it slow. It takes lots of patience and very slow.
Is there one breed that seems to be more of a problem than any others?
No, not really. I mean...
For instance, my son had a pit bull. I beg your pardon, my grandson. And they have a bad reputation. That's because people did that to them. This dog was as nice a dog as you could have in your house. He was just as gentle and loved attention. You'd never know he was a pit bull because...
No, they're a sweet animal.
Very,
also.
very,
I've had pit bull here.
Neat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just how they're raised, like anything else, how you're raised.
That's right, so, exactly.
You know, if you're not, that's just, it's awful, but that's the way it is. And people abuse children also.
So that if you got a pit bull puppy, regardless of the parentage, all things being equal, would the dog grow up to be just a fine family pet?
Sure.
Yeah, oh yes, because we give so much love, and everyone out there love our animals, and we try to. Yes, a little puppy. Oh yes, they would turn out the.
Well, it goes without saying, you're not going to walk through that door as a volunteer unless you have an innate love for animals. You know.
You have, yeah, that is true. I mean, anyone that works or volunteers out there, we all love animals, and you know that's our choice of giving. So,
if a person finds
and
them, go ahead, Marilyn.
Oh, I would say, years ago, or you would see, animals running the streets, dogs, but you don't see that anymore. I mean, we have our spayed and neuter program also. That we have that once a month, and usually there's around 40 animals that go to that.
Is that right?
Yeah, well, they leave on a Monday. We meet out at Big R. It's been so nice to us, and we use their off space out there, and people pay a small fee for getting their animals
neutered?
Spay or neutered. We take them down to APL. Clint Pollock is the chairman of that. He's a volunteer of ours, and he does a wonderful job. They load them up, and they have to be in their cages, of course. Take them down and pick them, and then they bring them back the next day, and have to get people come and pick their animals up. But every single month, except for the month of December, we have our spay and neuter program, and they take some of ours too, because it is cheaper. Some of our vets like to wait till the animals, a cat especially, a little bit older, but APL will do it a little earlier. So, and then, like I say, it's a little cheaper.
Now you talk about APL. What's the acronym?
Animal Protective League?
Yes. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, Bill. Gee.
My thought.
I'm just more than a pretty face.
Well, I guess. Holy Friday.
Well, it's a shame. We talked about neutering, and we may lose our station license here. But it's a doggone shame that some people can't undergo the same process. You know?
Really.
Seriously.
I'm
serious about that. Anyway.
But anyway, we do that, and so that has helped. You just don't see animals running anymore in the last few years like they used to.
When someone comes in to adopt a pet, do you explain to them the ups and downs of pet ownership? Because it's your responsibility to see to inoculations, to spaying and neutering. All these things come along with a pet, and I sometimes think people aren't aware what they're getting into.
Yeah, well, we explain all of ours are spay or neutered, and of course they're shots when they leave our facility. But after they leave and adopted, that's their animal. Mm-hmm. And we hope that we picked out a good adoptee person, and hope that they keep up we can't. There's nothing to say we can't make them do it. Say a year later when they're due, mm-hmm. But we hope that they do. Mm-hmm. So.
One last, we just got a couple of minutes left. Mrs. Wheat, would you like to put a closure in for the animal? What is the correct name of your facility, please?
The Humane Society of Logan County.
Well, that's very simple.
That's very simple. Mm-hmm.
So, would you like to put in a close plug for the Humane Society of Logan County?
Well, we could use some more volunteers to care for our dogs and cats, and we have shifts. Our shifts are 8, 12, and 5, and you provide cleaning and socializing with the animals, and we really appreciate everything that Logan County does for us. So, and if you need to call us, our phone number is 217-737-40242. I'm sorry, 42. So,
Marilyn, we appreciate what you and all the other volunteers do out there for our little four-legged friends. We appreciate your taking your valuable time to visit with us this morning. You've helped us a lot with some questions that Judy and I have had about the Humane Society, and you kind of briefly referred to the fact that you can be buried with your pet out there. Not everybody's aware of that, and so that
or
may be...
without your pet, without her, whatever.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I better tell Jean about that. She might find a place to put me. So.
There you go.
Marilyn Wheat, our Humane Society, being with us. We appreciate your time very, very much, my dear. Thank you.
I appreciate you too also, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and that's it for Viewpoint.